is usually a very precise and just like he doesn't blunder like that very frequently.
No, I feel bad. I was, saying everything, Vlad this, Vlad that, but okay. He'll recover. As you mentioned, he doesn't seem like he doesn't seem too bothered by that, but that was very sloppy.
Maybe he learned something from Hikaru yesterday, that it's okay to lose your first two games, and one of them by mouse slip. In this case, was by just a horrendous blunder, and then still go on to win a match. But that is a really bad start for Vladislav Artemiev because, he was doing fine all game. He slightly preferred his position, and then all of a sudden, with one move, he throws it all away.
Yeah, as soon as Wesley maybe played the equalizing move, that's when the blunder came in for White. But okay, I mean, I think that last game is going to be typical from Artemiev's like White games, where he gets a bit of pressure, and it's going to be whether Wesley can be precise and hold on. And there he seemed to play very well, handled it very well as Black. So.
Well, he loves these Karakans from the Black side, Artemiev does. And for Wesley he's playing into the Karakan, which I'm sure he prepared for this match. He usually does. He takes these very seriously, and he loves chess. But right now, from the White side, we look at a position where White has much more space. Right, we have a pawn on E5, we have a pawn on A5, and a pawn on G4. So essentially, Wesley is playing on both flanks and in the center, and Black's pieces are quite cramped. I think that, Eric, a lot of players are tempted to take on H6, being, I'm going to double my opponent's pawns and give them a potentially weak king, but it's often not the right move because the knight can't go anywhere. So your bishop doesn't need to capture it just yet. You can kind of wait on that knight to figure out what it wants to do.
No, that's definitely the case. And when you give up your dark square bishop, Black can undermine usually this E5 pawn with F6 a little more comfortably.
Yeah.
But F5 is super aggressive. I'm a little confused. Okay, there's definitely tactics here.
G5?
He's going to take on F3.
Aha. Let's analyze that a little bit.
Take on F3 and take on G5 and get a bit of... I see the compensation, but it's still nice to look at.
Yeah, so we'll analyze this here with the G5 pawn hanging. And what do you make of this situation where you get a rook for a piece and a pawn, but the king on G1 is a bit exposed, or the pawn on E6 is always one of those backward pawns that might not be so happy either?
Yeah, I think in Blitz, I mean, that position looks like there's a lot of competition for Black. King is safe. You get some long-term pressure. I think that would be an example where you can definitely give up the material without, too much risk.
Yeah.
You're not anywhere close to an end game. There's going to be some pressure against White's king. So.
And this G5 idea still exists in this position, right after the capture on D5, and he can play it if he so chooses. And actually, what about now G5? Right, Rook takes F3, Bishop F3, Bishop G5, Knight takes D5 kind of stuff. Like, I guess it doesn't.
Knight takes D5 is that's a very specific but good point, because I'm willing to give up one rook, but I don't think two was the plan.
Although you do get three minor pieces, right? So if like Bishop C1 take, something, or probably Queen takes, but all these kind of trades happen.
This is a good version, yes. Because Bishop A8, Queen A8, I mean, Black's king is looking pretty safe there. That was one thing I was concerned about. Oh, is F4, F5 coming?
Whoa. So actually F4 I don't think was necessary. I mean, sorry, not F4, excuse me, Knight F7. Because now the bishop on G6 is trapped after F5. So Wesley kind of figures this out in advance. But what I was saying was, instead of Knight F7, I thought Bishop F7 was going to be the move. And the point is, if you take on A8, I take on C1 as like an in-between move to keep three minor pieces for a rook.
Yeah, no, we were looking forward to that imbalance where it's like not sure which side you take. But here, if Wesley gets in this F5 move, we're not looking at an okay position for Black. We're not going to get three minors.
The bishop on G6 is just trapped.
We got to find something.
All right. So
maybe a light square blockade. Can you do something like that where you're down in the exchange? It's like I'm looking at like Knight F6 here, and just Bishop F6.
Yeah, I guess Knight F6. The rook on A8 still hanging too, so you just snap that one off the board. Then the bishop on G5, and so now you could take on A8, take on G6, and you only have two exchanges as Black, but this White king, right? There is something to.
Well, yeah. The problem is the knights have moved backwards a little bit. So let's say Bishop A8, Queen A8. You take on G6. If White, okay, Wesley has to play a couple precise moves, but Wesley's one of the guys where when if he has to find precise moves, he will. He will.
Yeah, I
So
mean the king isn't that unsafe. It's not like you're attacking with one queen on a long diagonal, but an eventual queen f3 or queen e2 will just shore up the king side. So it does feel like black is grasping at straws there, and we are going to see this variation. So
would you
I
go
think
queen
that
f3 right away instead of worrying about the d4 pawn?
yeah, you can do that or play bishop e3. Then of
Just
course
wondering if you want to allow knight h4. Yeah, that's
right.
what.
And well, so okay, let's do a material. I need to gather myself here. So it's two rooks for two knights. That is exactly the material imbalance here.
Two tricky knights, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Especially as the time starts, dwindling here. You get a few seconds left. Knights are the trickiest piece in Bullet. So here they don't seem that tricky though.
They don't. I mean, again, knight h4 probably should be played. So if like queen f4, you can play knight g5, something like that. But I guess there's just queen f2 or queen g3. Although then you play h6. I think the knight belongs on h4, but rook takes f6 was a threat.
Actually, rook takes f6 might be a decent move right now. Yes. And it's good to realize that when positions where you have a lot of material, here you have two exchanges. Oftentimes, as the principle goes, you sacrifice some of the material back to make your life easier. Here, it's not necessary, but you do want to keep in the back of your mind. Sometimes rook takes f6 is just a good move to say, here, get rid of your bishop, open your king a little bit, create a weakness in black's position, and then I'll be able to mop up the rest in a bit. And, queen d8 was threatening bishop h4, so he drops his bishop to f2.
Is it? Yeah, I mean, on one hand, I'd like to get this knight on g6 to d5 or like an outpost and blockade things. But on the other hand, that's too slow. And white's up too much material.
It's interesting if we just go back one move here. Like he could have went bishop h4 a move ago, but I think bishop g5 or something like that was a bishop somewhere. Bishop f2, but he resigned. But it looked like this bishop h4 skewer wasn't working anyway, which is why he didn't go for it.
Not the start that Artemiev was looking for, but what can you say? He needs his coffee.
He's doing a Nakamura, right? Yeah. Two games, and he needs to bounce back here. You cannot afford to go to an 0-3 against Wesley. So, although we've seen players like Jan-Krzysztof Duda and Artemiev dominate in Bullet portions past, so it'll be interesting to see if that will continue, that trend for this Russian superstar. And right now, this position from the white side, I tend to like these positions, right? This bishop on g2 is beautiful on the long diagonal. And I think that black, if you're very accurate, has a way to neutralize white's kind of advantageous minor pieces. But, I don't know if it's really worth just that one pawn you've gained by taking on c4. I don't know. How do you feel about these positions, Eric?
I like the initiative. I've appreciated that more lately. So here, I mean, it's considering everything, I think white gets ample compensation and a lot of play, which is possibly better than some of the drier variations of this opening. At the same time, Wesley knew some of the moves pretty fast, which, I mean, doesn't surprise anyone probably, theoretically speaking. So, like, it's also, if Wesley's prepared for this, he knew Vlad was playing it, then I'm going to be like, maybe I wouldn't play it if Wesley actually expected this. Even if it gives white play.
And Wesley spent about 40 seconds on his move queen to b6 last move. So I wonder if that means who deviated, right? Who's the player who wasn't sure what to do here? But I feel like it's Wesley. Just by the time management these last few moves now, I feel like Vlad has caught him in something he doesn't feel super comfortable with. And if we think about the specific dynamics here, bishop takes f6 is something that oftentimes you don't really have to worry about, but you always have to think in the back of your head, is that going to ruin my king side? And is white going to be able to, let's say, play eventual bishop f6, queen e4, swing the queen over to the king side and try to attack this lone king on g8 because there aren't many pieces of black's helping to protect it.
And what do you do with black right now? Rook d8, I'm going to go bishop e7 if you put too much pressure on f6 and just ask you, where's the compensation?
It's a good question. I wish I had the answer to it. These are the type of positions where I'm always like trying desperately to figure out, like, I feel like white should have something. I know I'm down a pawn, but it feels like there's something. My pieces are active, and knight on a6 is misplaced. My bishop on g2 is better than your bishop on d7. But at a certain moment, you're just making kind of excuses rather than thinking of concrete plans. And that actually often is the downfall of players in these type of positions. And right now in particular, he goes knight e4, trying to make use of the pin on the knight f6, bishop e7, as you point out, of course, is the natural retreat. So the c4 pawn is captured. And now we're left with even material, but black can play rook a to c8 and kind of finish the development. And I don't think black is doing too poorly here.
No, unless you have an accident on, let's say, b7, where white's bishop finds an entry point. That Wesley gets the queens off, not too much damage. Although, again, b7, maybe this b7 problem, like this a file plus the bishop on g2, we do have some immediate threats right now that you still have to solve.
Yeah, the knight can't move because a7's hanging. As soon as I move my knight from e4 with like a knight takes f6, b7's hanging. So perhaps we both kind of thought that black was getting out of it, but there are some complications here. Knight c5 looks like a decent try. Yeah,
well, sometimes black can give up a pawn if enough trades are available, because these are double isolated pawns on the b file. So
yeah, and we'll probably get this, but we might as well show it on the analysis board really quickly here, is that if you take on c5, as happened, so we can actually watch the game, bishop b7, rook to b8 comes, and, well, this bishop on b7 is now under attack. Behind it is his pawn on b3, and behind the pawn b3, of course, the pawn on b2. So at some point, liquidation seems very likely, and black is happy to trade off all of this material. And, well, white has to find a clever move. I mean, you can play knight c6, and saying, okay, both of your rooks are under attack. You take me on c6, I take back, and I claim I should have an advantage with the two bishops and some back rank check. I don't want to say checkmate, but some back rank check ideas that could hurt. But if we continue down the line, there's a rook takes b3. Rook d8 check is just one check. Although if putting black on the back foot with bishop f8 and then say bishop e3 coming to c5, there's a lot happening here if white wants it. So I do think that white has to be better. Anytime you have two bishops and pawns on both flanks, then white should be better.
Yeah, so I don't think Wesley will go right away for that b pawn and recover material, because those bishops right now at the back rank with the d file, that looks too much.
Yeah, and knight c6 forces the issue, but he has not done that. He's brought his bishop back.
Can you play bishop f4 here? I'm just wondering where the rook goes. To throw that move in first, but maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point. And just to show that the d4 knight is hanging, but not really, because after bishop b8, your rook cannot take on b8 and protect d4 at the same time.
Yeah.
So after bishop f4.
Yeah, trying to harass those bishops. Maybe something like rook b. I'm looking at some weird moves here.
Yeah, rook b6 runs right into bishop. Oh, well, rook b6, bishop c7, then rook takes d4 kind of stuff.
I'm trying to, but could be dubious.
Looks interesting to me.
However, he's sinking a lot of time into this position. I spent 55 seconds on bishop g2, and Wesley's built up almost a 2-minute time advantage here. So despite being up a pawn, you got to watch out a little bit, despite the increment.
Well, he actually just pretty directly, he's attempting to transpose into that position we were talking about if he had played knight c6 immediately. So he put his bishop back and then played knight c6. So if you take on d1 here, we're going to see a trade on d1. Rook takes b3 is a possibility here. But rook d8, pins on the back rank are never fun for black.
So rook b3, rook d8, king f8. It's an unpleasant pin, but where's the follow-up?
Maybe knight a5 and then bishop c6. We have the analysis, so like rook d8, king f8, knight a5 coming with bishop c6, putting pressure on this pinned bishop. Maybe you have rook b5 and the points after bishop c6, rook a5. It looks like it's going to be a mate on e8, but after bishop f6, g takes, my king runs to g7. It's like... Yeah,
no, the king definitely escapes in that line by hair on his chinny chin chin, but it works. I mean, Wesley played it pretty much immediately that something about this, he's confident he's going to hold the pin. And
oh, this is a smart move order, because now after knight a5...
Because rook takes e8, right?
Yeah, exactly. Rook b5 fails, so rook takes e8 check, and the bishop comes and...
And if bishop b6, rook e8, in every variation, rook e8 check.
That's really nice.
So what about now? Rook takes b2. Bishop c6, rook takes e2.
Just go for all the pawns?
That's a lot of pawns.
Yeah, I'm into that.
In fact, that looks fine for black.
Yeah, you get 3 pawns.
You get 3 pawns, and your king is usually safe when you have these double pawns and the wrong bishop for white.
Well, you've called it because that's exactly what's happening.
Bishop b6 or bishop. He's looking for a Wesley move right now. You know, he's not gonna take on f2 yet. But this looks very comfortable for black.
You know Wesley. I mean, look at you, bishop b6.
He just beats me every year in the PCL.
You're like, how does he do it against me? He plays moves like bishop to b6, a very calm move.
Because rook takes f2 is a lot more effective, right? You want that discovery. It forces white's king to go to h1, which is, well, the wrong way, especially when you got a f and e pawn that can run down the board in the future. So rook e7 is the one thing to watch out for. But this must be really good for black. Rook d2, f5, bring the king in. I hate my king on h1. I hate that it can always be checked, and it's so far away.
Yeah, you're absolutely right that white needs one move, right, to go rook to e7 and attack the f7 pawn. But if you go rook to d2, as you're pointing out, you're kicking that knight out from its very pesky placement on d6. And the problem for black, if we just start trying to evaluate this, is the f7 pawn's on a light square, which means at some moment a bishop e8 type maneuver will be good. Right now, knight e8 check is the threat. Because if I go knight e8, I'm attacking your king, of course, but also the f6 pawn, and you don't have king g6 because bishop e4 will be a check, picking up the rook on c2.
The main concern here is blundering. Does knight takes f7 work or no? I guess, okay.
No, because he had rook c1, then rook g1 check. That's the nice thing about this rook.
I think white's going for a draw here if you can get it, because 21 seconds, a lot of ways to mess this one up.
Yeah, so king h3 runs into bishop g1. That's why he's bringing his king back to the corner. If you're Wesley, do you play for more? I mean, they just agreed on a draw, but